Hello, and welcome to Radio NIGP. Imagine a world where government procurement isn't bound by the way it's always been done, where innovation moves at the speed of need and bold ideas replace red tape. In 2026, we're talking about thinking differently, smarter partnerships, faster solutions, and unlocking real value for communities. It's not just purchasing, it's possibility. So grab your drink of choice, sit back, and enjoy this episode of Radio NIGP.
Hi, colleagues, and welcome to another edition of Legally Speaking on Radio NIGP. This month, myself, Valerie Scott, and my colleagues John Walton and Michael Beavis are going to talk about a question. So we're doing something a little bit different. I'm going to present a question. We'll give you some brief insight on that question, and then we will wrap up quickly. So my question is, does a contract need a fixed end date?
And I'll take the first answer, and my first answer is no. It could end on completion, which could mean the delivery of an item. It could mean finishing a project. It could mean delivering a report. But what's also interesting is that it doesn't end there. It ends when we make payment at the end of payment, right? So the actual process is both the contractor performs and then we perform, right? And then it's done. So most purchase orders are that kind of a contract, right? They're a contract based on the terms and conditions of the purchase order that's complete when the thing is delivered and paid for. So, John, what do you think about that question? Do you need a fixed date?
I thought that was great. Fixed date is just one way to do it. Some people will have an expiration date in there, but no, I agree with you. You don't need that. Performance is one thing. Another might be just whatever limits you put on a contract. Sometimes people will say, I'm going to order as many textbooks as we need for this school year. And so, it's tied to the school year. And once it's over, it's over. So you could have a limit that's a time. It's not a fixed date, but it's a time. Or it could be a quantity. I need up to this quantity. I won't order more than X number of boxcars of coal to fire my furnaces, and you can do it based on the quantity as well. It could, it's also even could be tied to your funding cycle.
Yep.
Say we're going to order up to the end of the fiscal year, and that'll be the end of that. So you could specify any of those instead of a date.
Or it could be a dollar amount, right? I'm going to order up to $100,000 worth of office supplies, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then when you hit the 100,000, you're done.
Right. Are there other ways to end a contract? Let's see.
Termination for convenience.
Sure.
No, it's
Termination for any reason. Yeah. If you terminate the contract, it's done.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. So I think one key thing that I take away from this is that when we're advertising our solicitations ethically and in the interest of fairness, it's really important that we are clear what our intent is and we advertise it that way so that all of the suppliers who are competing for our business have a fair opportunity to understand the potential length of time, the potential amount of money, the potential quantity of widgets that we might be ordering, so that we avoid future issues with our fairness being questioned and our ethics being questioned and people wanting to engage with business with us in the future. So we want flexibility, but we also want to make sure that we're being consistent and clear throughout the process from solicitation to contract about what will trigger the end of the contract. And it doesn't need to be a fixed date.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, guys?
I think that's the one other little nuance I'd add to it, which I just thought of, is we want to make sure that our clients understand how the contract ends, right? Not just us, not just how it works, not just the vendor, but also the using department, so that they know that when they get to a certain thing, they have to stop, right?
Well said. Thanks, Valerie.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And we look forward to seeing all of you on the next time here on Radio NIGP with Legally Speaking.
Thanks, everybody.
Good afternoon, everybody. Kurt Buffington and Ted Phillips are here with Radio NIGP. And this afternoon, we have the pleasure of talking to Shanda Carpenter, our Director of Content Research and Design, who is going to talk a little bit more detailed about what to expect at the upcoming Forum 2026 in Columbus, Ohio. Shanda, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me.
Let's start right off. So with the basics, what can people expect in 2026 in Columbus that may be different from the past?
So it's going to take place in Columbus, Ohio. That's August 23rd through the 26th. Attendees can join in person or virtually. Either way, the focus this year is on what members have said they need. So over the past year, the team gathered feedback on topics that matter most and how people prefer to learn. And this program is really built around that input from our members.
Okay, great.
Very good. So tell us then, what's new or different about this year's program?
So one of the biggest updates this year is the introduction of our 4 new learning paths: technology, leadership, project management, and construction. Each of these paths include 4 75-minute sessions built around a central theme. Attendees can participate in individual sessions or complete the entire path and pass an assessment to earn a competency badge. You don't have to attend every session to be able to get your badge. You can go back and watch a recording that will be available on demand for 60 days, really allowing you to revisit the content and complete each path if you'd like. Now, another update, and this is new for us this year, is the introduction of the Ask a Procurement Pro virtual session. So these are an opportunity for attendees to connect directly with an experienced procurement professional and ask practical real-world questions. And the topics are going to range from RFPs to bonds, construction, technology, negotiations, and so on.
Great. I love the idea of the Ask a Procurement Professional. I'm actually going to do one of those. It should be very interesting what occurs. Very loosey-goosey almost. But,
I agree. Yeah.
how is the content structured for different experience levels?
Sessions are organized primarily into 2 levels, and that's going to be foundation and advanced. What we found when we talked to our members is that folks wanted more advanced content. So advanced sessions are going to explore topics in greater depth. And these are going to be things around strategic leadership, AI-driven procurement, data-informed decision-making, and organizational impact. Foundation sessions are designed to help professionals build or strengthen their understanding of public procurement. Those are going to cover topics such as procurement fundamentals, contracting and compliance, communications, customer engagement, strategic thinking, and digital readiness.
Very good. Very good. So what about people who prefer a more interactive or hands-on approach to learning?
Yeah, we're excited to feature several advanced workshops. So these extended sessions, they're going to be 2 75-minute sessions, include exercises, small group discussions, and collaborative problem-solving topics. So get ready and to be collaborating with people and engage. Topics are subjects like debriefs, AI and e-procurement, leadership strategy, bonds, and expanding competitive bidding pools.
Great.
Yeah.
Will there be opportunities to hear from suppliers or see real-world examples?
Yes, definitely. The program will include innovation theaters, and these are going to be located in the Expo Center. And this is where the suppliers share their perspectives, as well as there'll be learning sessions, which are case studies that highlight real-world implementations and lessons learned from suppliers. Additionally, the Procurement Excellence Showcase will also be featured in the Expo, and it's designed as kind of like a science fair style experience. The attendees produce posters, and they have small conversations engaging with professionals behind various projects, and then they get to vote for the most impactful entries.
Sounds exciting. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
One quick note on the showcases. The applications are out now, and we'll be accepting those probably through about the end of May, early June. So if you have an exciting topic to share, a best practice you want to share with your colleagues, this is a really great opportunity to do that.
Great.
Yeah,
I
very
know
good.
from past experience, those innovation theaters get, basically sold out.
They're really popular, and it's a good opportunity too. If maybe you're not quite ready to get on the main stage and present to a large group of people, this is a great way
Sure.
to do some public speaking and share your experience.
So, with that being said, does the learning stop once the event ends?
No, and this is an important aspect of Forum. It continues beyond the event. Attendees will have access to sessions and recordings for 60 days, which is really great because what we heard from our members is when they go to Forum, their employers expect them to bring back what they learned,
Sure.
right? So we don't always remember all that stuff. It's a lot of content to be covered.
Yeah.
So you can relax, pay attention, be engaged, and go back and review those recordings. So you don't have to worry about jotting down everything you learned. You can go back, see who those presenters are. Additionally, we produced the Forum Digest ebook, and this is going to be a highlight and a summary of each of the sessions. So really it complements the recording. If you went to a session, you can't quite remember what it was about, or maybe there was a statistic or something in it that you want to grab, you can go back and look at the Forum Digest to quickly review that and also share it with your colleagues.
Great.
Yeah.
I find myself downloading the presentations in the airport, waiting for my flight home.
Yeah.
Well, Shanda, do you have any final thoughts? Everything you've said so far just really sounds like it's going to be a spectacular forum.
Agree.
Yeah, I would just say, whether you're going to be in person or in Columbus, or in person in Columbus or online, really the goal of Forum is to provide a practical and relevant experience. So we look forward to welcoming everybody in person and online this August.
Great.
Very good.
Ted, any final thoughts or questions or comments?
No, I'm all good. I can't wait to go.
I know,
Can't wait
I'm
to
the same
participate.
way.
Yeah.
Shanda, thank you so much again from Radio NIGP. And again, Ted Phillips, Shanda Carpenter, and Kirk Buffington saying, come to Columbus, Radio NIGP.
Yeah, we'll see you there.
Hello, and welcome to Construction Junction. Construction procurement often has its own place in the procurement code. Why is that? Notably, it is due to lobbyists on behalf of the construction contractors working to maintain the status quo and keep construction procurement defaulted to low bid. Well, recently at NIGP's Leadership Summit 2026, a session was on the changes to the Model Procurement Code. While we have heard rumors for years that the American Bar Association was going to update the Model Procurement Code, it is now happening. The presentation was provided by the Partners for Public Good, which you may know more from their webinars and resources through the Procurement Excellence Network. So many of you may think, how do updates to the MPC affect me? Most public entities in the United States have adopted in part or whole the procurement language contained in the Model Procurement Code. It was last majorly updated in 2000, but added some additional information in 2002 and 2007, with the 2007 update focusing on the public infrastructure. Needless to say, updates are desperately needed to keep up with the changes in procurement and society since the previous changes. All right, so now back to Leadership Summit. During the Day 2 activities, mainly those with all the participants, those of us interested in the updates to the Model Procurement Code were invited to join roundtables and discuss our issues on the various parts of the Model Procurement Code that are being updated. I happened to select the table that was focusing on construction procurement. There were some common issues discussed when we were at the table, like that the default use of low bid and contractors gaming the system with extremely low bids and then change orders once awarded, that the definition of construction that includes repair, which can be interpreted as maintenance, and conflicts in state procurement laws that make it difficult to follow federal funding requirements. After the discussions and as we were wrapping up, some takeaways from the discussions are everyone has problems with elevators, whether it be the installation, the maintenance, or the repairs. It just seems to be a problem no matter where we work. Procurement professionals recognize that the default low bid is not being fiscally responsible. So how do we combat this since it is required by our statutes? Those who deal with federal funding are in constant conflict between the federal state requirements, and they are frustrated. They just want to be able to help their constituents and get things done and then get reimbursed by the feds. So what happens when that conflicts with state laws? Construction procurement wants laws that allow us to look at these projects as part of the big picture and want greater discretion on how they procure them in the best interest of our public agencies. I'm going to provide some articles, some links to some articles or links to good related information in regards to public procurement and construction along with this presentation. Feel free to peruse these and see what you can find that might actually benefit you. As we've mentioned before in Construction Junction, sometimes it's our job to help lobby to get these laws changed. So maybe this is time to start thinking differently about how we do construction procurement. That's all for now. I hope you have a great day.
Good afternoon. My name is Denise Finn, and you are listening to Radio NIGP. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Debbie Trueblood, the CEO of NIGP, and Marquita Gillespie, the Executive Director of NIGP Consulting. Ladies, I wanted to ask you how you feel and what your thoughts are on NIGP Consulting coming back under the NIGP umbrella. Debbie, would you like to go first?
Well, thanks, Denise. And I'm so happy to be here with Radio NIGP. So this transition, bringing NIGP Consulting in-house, is so exciting for us for two big reasons. First, it allows us to really focus on NIGP Consulting as part of our nonprofit. I think that's going to be really important for us moving forward. Second, it allows us to really integrate the learning. So for us, it means integrating what we learn in the consulting side of the house, along with what we learn in the research side of our house and what we teach in our education and content side. So it means that what we learn in research is immediately implemented in consulting. It means that what we learn in consulting is immediately taught in education. So it means that in all of these areas, we are learning and teaching and publishing faster and faster than we were before. So we're able to help our members be at the cutting edge of information, research, and consulting. So for me, I think this is a great way for us to serve our members and the procurement community in a whole new way. So I'm very excited. So Marquita, what about you? What are you excited about?
Well, thank you also for having us, Denise and Radio NIGP. We're so excited. We've been running the program for 3 decades now, and we've really had a substantial increase in the amount of clients we've been able to engage with. And just like Debbie said, this really is about bringing in the integrated services and the consulting program being able to leverage all those other services that already exist in NIGP. There is a very close correlation to the research and the education and content that's developed, and we incorporate those regularly in our services that we're providing to clients. And I think while many people probably didn't really understand the structure differences, and they may go, oh, were they not under NIGP before? We've always been owned by NIGP, but I think this direct integration and this full suite of services is really going to be beneficial as we deliver services directly to the clients from a nonprofit position, from the association position. And I think that really puts us in a great place in the market. And so we're really excited to carry this message out into the community and bring our services to those clients who really can use our support.
Well, thank you, ladies. I know as an NIGP consultant and a member of NIGP, I am very excited to and looking forward to what we're going to do next.
Hello and welcome to Way to Grow. This is an NIGP mentorship moment. Now, for 2026, as you all probably know, we have a new CEO at NIGP. Her name is Debbie Trueblood. And Debbie has been inspiring us all to think differently in 2026. And I believe that one particular way we can do that is through our mentorship program, as our mentors are really at the forefront of helping mentees discover how to look at things differently than they used to before receiving advice and feedback of their mentor, that is. And I believe this allows the mentorship program as a whole to be able to spearhead the effort to help mentees think differently. And they can do it every time they have a discussion with their mentee. So I'm fortunate today to have our two super mentors. They both received the Super Mentor Badge. And John Flynn was our first badge holder. And Robert Bruce is our newest badge holder. So, gentlemen, welcome to Way to Grow.
Thanks for having us. Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
I'm glad you're all here. So, I'll just get started. Mentors serve a vital role in helping mentees to look at things differently. What techniques have you used to help mentees think a little bit differently after they exit the program, or at least even after they exit one of your sessions? John,
well, Keith, I'll start, Keith, and thanks for your kind words. Coming from you, that means a lot. I have tremendous respect for you and Victor, and I'm really honored to be part of today's program. A couple things I do in early meetings with mentors. I like to ask mentors to think beyond what they are today to what they could be in the future. Some of the techniques I use for doing that, I encourage them to look at volunteer opportunities within IGP and or NIGP chapters. I encourage them to look for new work assignments that might stretch them and go outside of their comfort zone. I always ask mentees to develop their public speaking skills, and also the presentation skills, and look for opportunities to do that. And, finally, I ask them to consider professional certification, even if it means they have to pay for the professional certification out of their own pocket if their agency won't do that. And, just to close my thoughts on this, I've had the opportunity to work with so many outstanding people through the NIGP program, mentees, mentors. Honestly, I learn as much from my mentees as they do from me. And I just have a passion for it. And I think it's a great program.
We all share that feeling. We learn as much as the mentees did. So that's why I believe it's great for us to give back to NIGP and to the profession. Robert, how do you feel about your techniques, about what techniques you use?
Sure. Thanks, Keith. And I appreciate having me because, again, I believe in this program and I think it's a great program that NIGP does. When I'm working with my mentees, I tend to take a seat back and look at their concerns and make them think about asking some questions about like what outcomes they're looking for, what were they considering, trying to help mentees slow down and really think about the situations that they're going through. I try to help them reframe it and look at it through a different lens. And then I use my personal experiences that I've had in my own career and help them show different perspectives on certain situations just to help them think outside the box a little bit more because it helps them develop confidence and some critical thinking skills and looking at challenges differently from multiple angles. And most of the time they have solutions in their head, and it's helping them pull those solutions out and helping them with their situations.
I think that's a very good point. As mentors, one of our jobs is to find the talent that our mentees have and to extrapolate it out of them and help them to apply it in a positive direction. Now, I know that both of you are committed to provide both good advice and feedback to mentees about the importance of thinking differently to inspire their inspiration and help them develop a passion for the profession. So you two are super mentors. I'd like to know what advice you would give to other mentors or mentees for that matter in our program that might help them to be more open-minded to new and different things in the profession and in their mentee mentorship relationship. John?
Okay, well, I encourage, all mentees to surround themselves with a network of positive, forward-thinking professionals. To me, it's the number one benefit of belonging to NIGP. It's the networking opportunities that we have. I've made so many great friends through NIGP, and I'm always grateful to be a member and that I was invited to participate in this program. Other things that I try to encourage, mentees to do is to establish daily routines that might help them. They might include replacing binge watching TV shows with binge watching NIGP webinars. I know that when I was trying to get professional credits to keep my certifications, that I did a lot of watching the recorded NIGP webinars, and I would also get credit hours for doing so. But it's just a good way to replace a productive a habit that with a more productive habit. I talked about paying, for certifications out of pocket. I think it's important that all professionals really take ownership of your skills and invest in your own professional development. As I mentioned, my agency didn't pay for my certifications. I did that on my own, and I think it's paid for itself, many times over. One thing that I've kind of learned through NIGP, I think it's important to have people in your network that don't necessarily always have the same views as you do. They might be coming at life, from a different angle, have a different background that you have, and that's a good way to kind of keep your mind open to new and different ideas, as if you surround yourself with people that have backgrounds different than what you might have. And continuous learning, I'm kind of semi-retired, and I try to focus on that every day, is to learn something new every day. And I think in this world and everything that's going on with technology, there's always an opportunity to learn something different. And one thing I always try to finish with my mentees is, when we're kind of towards the end, is I ask them to pay it forward by considering being a mentor themselves. I'm always amazed at how much I learn from my mentees. And I think all mentors need mentors. And I'll give you an example of this. My son, Donovan, is my mentor when it comes to anything related to cars, how to fix things, how to diagnose product, problems with my car, where to take it for service. He's my go-to guy when it comes to, anything that's related to my car. And, in a way that's a good situation where I'm the mentee and he is the mentor. So, those are my things. If you've been if you really enjoyed being a mentee in the NIGP program, consider being a mentor, because you probably have a lot more skills than you're giving yourself credit for.
As a mentor, I've always believed that your legacy as a mentor is the success of your mentee.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have that myself. I have my first mentee has wonderfully has been wonderfully successful, and you know the particular person I'm talking about, John.
I do.
And they're moving forward. To me, that's the gratification in life that I'm looking for. Robert, what are your thoughts on that question?
Sure. Thanks, Keith. And I agree with John. The continuing education is outstanding and important, and always having that mindset of you will always try to continue learning, because you'll never know it all. And that always has to happen. At the end of the day, the most important thing I think with mentoring and the relationships are that when both parties stay open and stay curious, because it's a shared learning experience. And that's how I start all of my meetings with my mentees. I'm going to learn from you as much as you're going to learn from me. And I think that's important, because it's making sure to make them feel comfortable with experience, making sure they feel comfortable exploring ideas that are outside their comfort zone. and understanding that I think mentors, even after the relationship and after the formal process ends, I'm always there telling them, pick up the phone, call me, email me. I'm there as a support. And I think that's important because I think the system is really a support function for staff, even interested in getting into certain leadership roles. I've been blessed to have mentees that are considering moving up into a leadership role. So we have frank conversations of the pros and cons and how, as a leader, you're never going to be in your comfort zone. You're always outside of your comfort zone. And I think having those conversations in a real life experience with your mentees helps them be ready to step into those roles, because without the mentorship program, you're not going to have people wanting to step up into leadership roles. And I think that's the way this communication helps, is by able to partner with people. You have, like John said, it's building a network of people that you can rely on. If you have questions, you have a group of people that you can fall back on and that are there to support you in your process of wanting to do in different roles.
I have to agree with that. The moving our mentees to leadership is one of the primary goals for the program, helping them learn how to be leaders. And I really believe in that as well. And the other big takeaway I'm getting from today's discussion is that not only do we help our mentees to think differently, our mentees, through our interactions, help us to think differently about things too. Right. And I think that's a great theme for supporting the 2026 initiative of thinking differently. So, John, Robert, I want to thank you both for taking the time to chat with me today on Way to Grow. And just a reminder to our audience that you can find the NIGP mentorship program as well as our mentorship LinkedIn page at www.nigp.org/mentorship. So, reminding you, this is Keith Glatt speaking, and hoping that you'll join me soon on our next Way to Grow segment, and reminding you that this is Radio NIGP.
Hello, friends. Spring is officially here, which for those of us in the South means we're living under a thick blanket of yellow pollen. Stay strong and keep those allergy meds handy, and remember, this too shall pass. As we wrapped up Procurement Month, I hope you took a moment to celebrate the profession we love. If you didn't get a chance in March, or even if you did, let that celebration continue and carry on into April. With summer interns joining our team soon, now is the perfect time to refine your why. When someone asks what you do, don't let their eyes glaze over. Tell the story of your impact. You see those school buses? I negotiated the contract that put them on the road. That courthouse renovation? I led the team that brought in the best contractors. The software protecting your data? That's my contract too. Whether it's the quiet hum of traffic lights or the high-stakes scramble for PPE during the pandemic, what we do matters every day. Our work builds and protects our communities. This month, I challenge you to tap into that passion and share it with others. Practice your story, embrace a mindset of continuous improvement, and keep doing great things.
Her webinar, you mean, Christy?
Yeah, the one that she did
Yeah.
back, the first week in March, because to
Yeah.
kick off Procurement Month, and talked about the kind of the new direction that NIGP is going and some of the goals and such. So,
Yeah, it's worth watching, Don. It covers a lot of territory. She talks about her vision. She talks about what's going on and generally covers a lot of different topics.
Her goal to get 10,000 10,000 in-person attendees for forum. It's just, yeah, wow. Absolutely wow. Good
It's
morning,
a
Ms.
good
Bobby.
goal. I'm not sure it shouldn't be phased because that's going to be a tough slog when budgets are tight, right?
Yeah.
She explains it as being phased. She doesn't expect that
Yeah.
one day we'll look up and have 10, but it'll be
Yeah.
growing. But I am kind of curious. I know I've heard it several times, and I know probably a few of you all. What, and I just happened to be pondering this morning, with regards to Debbie's thoughts on our on hearing us say that we fell into procurement. What do y'all think about, like, have y'all heard what she's had to say about that? And if so, what do you think about that?
I actually think it's pretty accurate. I mean, well, we used to say that, but I mean, we go about saying we discovered it and changing it to, we discovered it and that we love it. That's why we continue to do it. I think she's got some valid points.
We talked about it in Hot Topics in the March segment.
Hmm?
So I think one of the things as well is that when we say we fell into it, it may be a generational thing, because when I got into procurement, there was no training for public procurement available. The whole program that I did with what was then known as the Purchasing Management Association of Canada was like every other thing that's out there in university. It was supply chain basically for the private sector. And I did fall into it, but the reason I fell into it was because it aligned with my interests. I was buying or requisitioning stuff at a forensic lab that, I mean, my classes in high school were chemistry, physics, biology, 3 maths. So, I could talk periodic table with the guys and, biology, and I had a basic understanding of stuff going on, and it was stuff I was really interested in. So when somebody said, "Hey, do you want to become the buyer?" When the purchasing agent left, I went, "Sure." Best job in the world. I got to make the bills, never had to pay a one, and I was buying fun stuff.
But Linda,
things have changed.
But you didn't fall into it because you had a choice. When you initially took the job, you chose it, and then you stayed in it because you chose to stay in it and to become more educated in it.
Yeah.
Very few people come out of college getting the exact job they thought of when they were kindergartners.
Yeah,
but
and that's very true.
A lot of people change jobs once or twice and then choose to stay in what really meets their passion.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point we need to be focusing on, is that we choose to be passionate about procurement.
Valerie?
And that's very true, but the fact that there wasn't any formal procurement public sector training was a detriment that had to be overcome, right? So hence why I am where I am.
Go ahead, Valerie.
I was just going to add, I used to say I fell into procurement because that's what everyone else was saying. So I never thought about how did I actually get here. And after really thinking about how did I actually get here, well, someone intentionally recruited me because I was a student employee in the purchasing office. And I left and did finance for a couple of years. And then I decided that wasn't for me. And someone from that purchasing office just called me out of the blue on my last day at the finance office and said, "Hey, we have this opportunity for you. You were a really good student employee. Would you like to learn how to be a purchasing agent?" And I'm like, wow, yeah, I never really thought about how did I actually get here, rather than saying, well, it wasn't what I expected. That's true, but someone intentionally recruited me into it.
Bobby?
I'm getting there.
So,
when I say fell into it, that's my experience because I was in finance and the buyer went out on maternity leave, and the finance director asked if I would be interested in, at that time, just buying office supplies. Well, she ended up having an extended leave because of her pregnancy. And she came back 3 months later, and then I had a passion for it. But similar to Linda, there was no formal training. So then I found out about the Midwest Association of MAP, right, Keith? MAP. I found out about
That's
MAP.
right.
So started attending MAP, then I started attending IAPO, then I found out about NIGP. So I think there's room for both, right? I think our experiences are different, but for me to change my narrative at this point in my career to say I discovered it, it doesn't feel authentic to me. I think we have a story and that our story tells how we became passionate about it or, began to like it. But I think there's room for both. And based on your experience, it could be you discovered it or fell into it. But I think we all have a story and that all of our stories are valid. And I don't think saying discovered it removes me from saying that I fell into it. But I think there's room for both.
Yeah, Bobby, I'm with you. I feel the same way. To a degree, it feels like a remarketing of the story. Um, because we all have our own stories on how we got here, and it's what you discover that you like out of a job. I discovered early in my life that I like to see work move. I like to see things completed, and fell into special projects in private industry. But I started in warehouses, working in warehouses and moving product and that sort of thing, and that expanded into buying then for the warehouse. And then low grade buying. My first real job where I purchasing wasn't in the title, but was as an assignment was for a small town bank. But I had a boss that micromanaged the crap out of me. It bugged me, and it was enough to make me leave and find other things. But I still went back to her years later. So yeah, remember when you gave me crap about ordering too many pencils? Yeah, I'm buying cars now for the school district. This is what happens when you give budget authority, but I figured out I liked it because of the variability of the product mix and the customers. If you got tired or frustrated with the cops, you can now go visit the firemen if you want to. It has that availability to it, whereas private industry buying, manufacturing buying, you're buying the same circuit boards or metal parts every day, and then it's just about market conditions. Here, at least, we've got some ability to pivot when we get frustrated.
Absolutely. I agree, Dan. John?
This is kind of fun to play around with semantically, right? Whether you fell into it or discovered it. I don't mind fell into either, because it's like so many people talk about, well, I fell into love, I fell in love with somebody. Do we have to change that to discovered? Maybe. Some things are, I kind of like the discover thing, but like Bobby said, either it fits for you or it doesn't. Either it feels authentic or it doesn't. But like Don said, it's mostly about choice. People would ask me, why in the heck did you stay in procurement, John? You're a lawyer. And I went, well, I'm choosing to do it because of all the stuff that Dan said. It's intellectually stimulating. It's got all these other aspects to it, and I focused a lot on the legalistic side of things. But I think Bobby hit it best. Just pick the wording that's the most authentic to you and focus on the idea about why did you stay? What was the choice that was involved in there? Because I think it's all about being intentional.
Keith?
I thought it was odd that Bobby mentioned she got in as a result of someone's pregnancy. The same exact thing happened to me, Bobby. Maybe it's something that happens in Illinois. I don't know, but because of an individual's pregnancy, I was able to, and I had some experience in wholesale food marketing because my family had a wholesale food brokerage business, and they were looking for someone to replace the food buyer. And it maybe it's nepotistic, but my Uncle George, who was a high-ranking state official in another department, happened to be having lunch with the state purchasing agent one day, who was bemoaning the fact that their food buyer was pregnant and about to leave, and they didn't know what to do. And my uncle, knowing he needed a job, came back and said, well, I have a nephew who has experience in the food business. But at the end of the day, it met my overall goal, because when I was a little kid, I always wanted to be a fireman. And by golly, when I went into procurement, I got to realize that dream. Putting out fires every day.
Well, and that's just it. When we think about it, why, that motivation behind us. I mean, mine was always, I mean, that's why I wanted to go into gene therapy research. I wanted to help others. I just found a different way of doing it, and I truly enjoy it. Stacy?
So I don't think there's any dishonor in saying that I just happened by this career, or it just, maybe the career chose me, right?
Mhm.
And maybe I didn't choose it, and that's how I happened by it. But I think because I started out, y'all, as a data entry clerk, that through a temp agency. That's how I got into it. And so it's not something that I chose, but if I was to say I fell into it, and then John was to say the same thing, and Valerie was to say the same thing, I think what it does support is that the pathways into procurement are vast. And it really doesn't matter what you studied in college or in high school or where your experience was. Every single thing shows up in what we do every day somehow. You could go to school for engineering and that be relevant for procurement. You can go to school for law and that be relevant for procurement. I went to school and studied history and English and management, and all of those show up in procurement every single day. And so that's kind of why I think it's really no dishonor in saying that we just happened by this beautiful profession, because everything that we learn, my former life as a paralegal shows up every single day. So the fact that we choose it every day, I think, is what's more important. And there have been good days and bad days, I'm sure, for every last one of us. And the fact that on those bad days, we go home and we turn around and come back, that's the story, right? But to say that we fell into it is also a story to say that this profession will accept and make room for whatever passion that comes its way.
Yeah. And I get both sides of the coin. I get understanding why somebody coming in with a new way of looking at things and wanting to change the message. But I also get all of us that have been around for a while, and those of you that have been around a lot longer than I have, talking about, no, that actually does describe how I got here. I mean, I understand all both sides of it. I think it was a way for her to kind of kick off her place in the organization, and to show some, that she was thinking about how to take this organization into the future. And so she was trying to kind of put her own stamp on it. But
well, and I
know
don't
we'll
disagree
still
with her. She made very good points. I feel
Yes.
like she made very good points, but it's
Yeah.
just when I think about my experience, it's like, well, it still could be that way. And I've never used that term. I have absolutely almost never used the term I fell into procurement. It's just been a nice surprise. And Linda, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But I think Debbie's focus on we didn't fall into it, we chose it, bodes well for the future, because what NIGP and what Rick has done so far with, building the structure the way it's been built, with the educational program, with the mentoring program, with the research papers, the white papers, the engagement with the business council, and engagement with other organizations, is a baseline that still has work to be done on it. And she seems like she's game for that. So that's a good thing.
Well, we'll definitely find out more at next week's member council meeting, won't we, Stacy?
Well, and I'm excited for the leadership. I really am excited for her and her vision for the organization and her leadership. But I just pondered that this morning, and
Yeah.
y'all listen, willing audience. So
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I've been, coming back after Leadership Summit, and part of the focus at Leadership Summit was, developing us, it was that love-based leadership and developing emotional intelligence and such. So I found this cool little journal, and I'm not a journaling person. Okay. My ADHD kicks in too much, but what's really cool about it is it's a guided journal. It has actually activities to do each week to actually build my emotional intelligence, help me build and enhance my emotional intelligence. And so, but I wasn't thinking about that till after I went to Leadership Summit. And then I was like, well, let me see what tools I can find to help me. So that was kind of cool when we start thinking about things a little differently, so. All right, this was a great discussion. What else do we want to talk about today that might go in the April show?
Christy, keep this as a an after-hour segment. Seriously.
There you go.
So I just want to add, if I may, I think the main intent behind, and I can't speak for Debbie, but what I got out of her message is really about choice, and that we choose no matter how we got there, we chose to stay because we love what we do and what we bring to this profession. And that's, I think, is the main theme behind the change in the way we approach why we're here. So I just want to make sure. I think it doesn't matter how you discovered it, fell into it, I don't know, stumbled upon it, whatever that might be. But the bigger piece of this is that you chose to stay, and that's that choice because of whatever reasons. But that's, I just want to clarify that piece of it, or at least throw my rusty 2 cents in there.
Thanks, Kevin. Good morning, Jack.
Well, and can I add to that, Kevin? I also think that because of the support that we find in the community, right? So it's not like we're out here working in silos. We actually get support from each other. We form these relationships. We see each other. I tell the story about how in the pandemic, how I was having trouble finding some stuff, and another procurement person picked up the phone, called their supplier and said, "Can you help Stacy?" And they did. I think the community is also a big reason about why I've made 30 years in the profession. And if it was a different community, would I still be here? I don't know. I don't know if I would have been successful in some of my procurements if I didn't know that I could fall back on other procurement professionals to help me see things differently or help me come up with solutions.
Well, and Stacy, what's really been fascinating in this past, little more than a year is how, honestly, we've got 2 people in my own organization that came from federal government. So they do things a little differently, obviously, but in that same instance, I had somebody reach out to me from the city of Roanoke, the city of Roanoke, because I already have connections at the county of Roanoke, but somebody from the city, and he's like, "Hey, I came from the feds. I'm trying to figure out how this local stuff works here. I need to know how, I want to do a job order contracting program. I saw you had the information." And in that conversation, though, I gave him the information of the guy who's right there at the county that the city sits in as a closer resource too, that if he wants to talk about it. So, and that is what I truly love about this profession is our willingness and openness to support and help each other, even if we don't know each other. It all started from a random email that I got. So, Jack.
Sorry to be late to the discussion, but I think I can jump in pretty quickly. It's so funny. We're talking about our profession, and we're integrated. Our what we do needs to be integrated in every business and every organization. Too long, I think procurement's been seen as a little silo, something, and I think we are part of a successful enterprise. And my eyes were opened when I went to teach operations management, and I realized they weren't teaching procurement. Well, how the heck do you do an operation does not succeed if you don't have good contracting on the front and the back? Okay. So I think it's all of us as business professionals. I would like to see, kind of taking Debbie's theme here is we chose to be in this profession. We chose to be business professionals. We could have been doctors, lawyers, something else with our life, right? Plumbers, architects, but we chose to be business professionals, right? And we chose the profession of procurement and contracting as something we have passion for, more so than accounting or, some more of the technical subjects of business. Anyway, so I don't know if this makes any sense of what I'm saying, but that's kind of to throw that out there, that we're procurement needs to be integrated and we need to view ourselves broader, because we're everything from a risk manager to advisor. I saw some of the comments here. We do all of that each and every day.
Yep. Linda?
Well, and I think that, as you spend more time in this profession and you see how it's matured and become more integrated into different segments of the organization, as Jack said, it's not that standalone. I feel better now about the profession than when I started. Because when I started in the chapter at PMAC in Toronto, there were 4 women in the membership. The rest were, and please don't take offense to this, guys, but old white guys. They'd been around since God knows when. They had been in their jobs for 25, 30 years. And when 4 women showed up, it was like, oh my God. It was like I just walked into the men's room in the local hotel, right? And that has changed. It's much more progressive now. We're prepared to think about things that can go wrong that people don't even want to wrap their minds around, and how do we help fix that? So as a wrangler who's got her horse saddled and heading for the exit in the arena, I feel much better about it now than I did when I first started. So, and I think with the direction that NIGP is taking, it bodes well for the future. So,
Well, I will say this discussion, I think, very aptly highlights what Debbie wants us to do, because it looks like none of us really, or most of us at least, never had the intent to go into procurement. But somebody somewhere got us to think a little differently than what we were thinking, and here we are.
Absolutely.
Keith, is it because it wasn't properly exposed in our academic endeavors, maybe?
Wasn't even mentioned in any of mine. It was never a
Keith,
subject that came up.
And I think that's an opportunity for us as a profession. And I'm going to lead this charge. We need to get this into academia at every level. We've talked about this before.
Right.
Sooner the better. High school, junior college, degree
the thing
programs.
is, Jack, those of us that came from like science backgrounds and stuff, why would we even think about something business related? I had no intention of doing anything business related. I wanted to spend my life in a lab. So I wouldn't even have thought about the fact that everything I was using when I was in college, granted some areas of Oklahoma State are actually self-funded through the selling of the livestock and such that we raise, but the feed and all that had to be procured somehow to be in compliance. So, but I would not have even thought about going into something that was business related, because I was like, look, I grew up around a family business. I don't want to be in business. No, I just want to go do my stuff in a lab and be a little lab rat and be perfectly happy. And
believe it or not,
Jack, we've been having that conversation for quite a while. Sorry, Kate.
At least 10 years, 12 years.
We're working on it.
When I was at the University of Kentucky and on the board of NAEP, we were talking to Rick about it at that time. Yeah. And I've been gone for well over 10 years.
Yeah. Don,
when did we start?
University person himself. You're muted, dear.
Works best if I'm muted. I was just thinking that, this is a great discussion, and I hate to pour cold water on it, but the key is, how do we infect others with this disease that we have? Mm-hmm. Because not only the ones in high school, college, junior college, but how many people are doing procurement in the United States and Canada that don't know have a clue about NIGP or about this passion that we have. And how do we infect others? It just that's
My
gotta
husband
be.
will tell you there's not a single bartender or waitress in the area that I have not told about what I do, and I get excited about it, and he knows it. I try to convert them all to procurement agents because they're already in sales. So believe me, I work really hard at it, but it's not easy, Dawn.
Well, part of it is
Valerie.
I think better ever than using the technology and the resources. And look at this group. How many is in this group now? It's up to 40 some people. So if each of us touch 5 people, the power of multiplication, right?
Yeah. Valerie?
I was kind of going back to what Linda was saying. I remember when I first started, all the 2 or 3 other ladies in the office were like, this is a boys club. Like, you have to, you have to stand up for yourself and you have to make them respect you. It was a completely different tone. And I think one of the most exciting things about the profession to me is seeing how much it has changed in such a short time and seeing how much progress has been made and how it's starting to be viewed by organizations as like, this is actually a valuable thing. And so when I think about who I am, I think a big part of this in recruiting people for the future is looking at who people are and what they hope to accomplish with their life and making that connection. Because yes, I got intentionally recruited in, but I stayed because I discovered like how I actually can impact people's lives and how I can actually make a community better, or at a university, how I could help make students' experience more robust and better for them. And to me, that was like really, really exciting. And it gave me a really great sense of purpose. And I felt like I was doing things to align with my values. So I think as we recruit people, we have to really focus on what is the opportunity here? Not just what has it been for the past however many years. Like, what's the opportunity? How can you actually bring about change by being engaged in this profession?
Absolutely, Valerie. John?
A lot of these threads are tying together. I mean, Valerie, I totally agree, that people want to be associated with something exciting, something progressive. They want to be part of a winner, and Dawn used the word infectious, infectious enthusiasm, infectious whatever, you want to get sucked into stuff like that. It also, when we start thinking about numbers and bringing in more people, I'm off on a tangent now on this conversation. I'm back to what Debbie was talking about with the 10,000 at Forum. And I was also I was thinking about that earlier for just a nanosecond, where we have 18,000 members in NIGP, but there's 89,000 local governments around the country. Why isn't our membership up around 100,000 or 150,000? Why is it at 18,000? And for that matter, going the other direction, smaller, how come Radio NIGP gets what, a couple hundred views per show? How come we're not up in the 2,000, 5,000 numbers? Maybe that should be our audacious goal, is to figure out how can we infect people and suck them into watching the show.
Yeah. And John, I do know some of it is limitations on funding to be able to join a local organization versus the national one or something like that. And I know that's also things that are being thought about in leadership right now about how we can get more participation in our organization as a whole, and then participation in events that we have, and finding funding sources and things like that. And Debbie mentioned that also in her piece too, which I thought was fascinating. When she got to that point. So, I mean, it's all, some of it's funding. Some of it is a lot, like I said, people, the only reason I knew who NIGP was is because my very first position was in an organization that was part of NIGP, that encouraged that. They didn't encourage me to get the state certifications and stuff. They encourage me to get the national ones, so I think a lot of it also happens based on where you start your career at too, and what those individuals know that can help support you. Because I know there's a lot of those one person shops out there that don't realize that there's other people out there that can be there to support and help them, because
Yes.
they don't know it exists.
That's right. And this is a crowded world. Everything's competing for our attention all the time. So how do we get people to think about being NIGP members, or how do we get them to think about watching Radio NIGP on a monthly thing? Everyone's fighting to break through and capture other people's attention. I'm kind of thinking we need to do a little bit more of that. It's the same thing. Some of us are involved with NIGP consulting, and I'm like, how come we don't have, that there are tons of organizations that could use a little bit of help. How come they're not knocking down the doors? Because they're not even aware that we exist. Well, so how do we break through I guess that's where my brain's going off on that tangent.
Stop sharing that, because I know we get into discussions. Anybody want to talk anything about like what we're talking about based on, I know Debbie did her webinar at the beginning of March, talking about thinking differently and how how we're moving forward in NIGP, and thinking about that. Anyone have any thoughts on that and how we can work that into the show as well?